Good morning, traders. It's 8:01 a.m. Chicago time on Wednesday, the 24th of January, 2024. This is episode number 2609. I want to remind you that derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss. It is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. So this morning, very strong markets. We have, let me turn on the light here. We have strong risk on across the globe. We've got Europe popping pretty strong this morning. The Euro Stoxx 50 leading with 1.85%. The DAX up 1.5% real time here. And the Russell again popping higher. Just shorts getting squeezed. A lot of, oh, shoot, this is wrong. Hang on one second. Let's clear this so I don't want to misinform you. Doop. Yeah, that's incorrect. Sorry about that. Earnings were listed incorrectly here. Anyway, strong risk on this morning. We had a few earnings yesterday. Netflix came out and it reported $2.11, which missed the street estimate of $2.22. But it got higher revenue and it popped quite a bit overnight. It was up almost 11%. It's near highs still on new ad revenue. The expectation is the new offering, so Netflix is basically becoming like your local TV where you just get these stupid ad interruptions unless you pay the at the $22 level or something like that. A reminder that Netflix streaming started out at $6.99. Made cable cutting very easy. In fact, I was a cable cutter. I became a cable cutter almost 12 years ago. Just always looked for streaming services versus Comcast or RCN or these other monopolies. And now, when you combine all these streaming services, you basically have the same thing as your old cable bill. So that's how the market is. It ends up balancing out, right? North Korea fires another test missile, causing a lot of noise from South Korea. Taiwan industrial production came in much worse. It missed by 4%. Expected to drop by 0.3%. The PBOC is cutting rates. There's a lot of stimulus talk from China overnight. This is what's causing a pop for the most part in Europe and so on, in addition to Netflix carrying the NASDAQ and others up. The moves by China to inject stimulus and to reduce the RRR rate. These are big moves that are supposed to be stimulating from one of the world's biggest producers and consumers. The dollar falling off this morning is also a boost to equities, but it also is going to have a bullish effect on metals. As you could see, silver popping higher, 2.35%, copper 2.32%, gold remains below the 2050 at 2033, still going higher, and then crude popping above the 74 handle, trading at 75 this morning, and crude is in an open auction and is trading inside of yesterday's range. So that's where we stand. AT&T came out disappointed. DuPont came out and disappointed. Tesla is expected after the close, 74 cents. IBM expected after the close, $3.78. Progressive beats by quite a lot, $2.96 versus $2.43. General Dynamics missed. Abbott Labs was in line, and there's just a lot. LG reports reported before the markets. There's just a lot this week in terms of earnings, so that's going to be the push. In terms of scheduled releases, we did get the HCOB manufacturing, composite, and services numbers throughout Europe. The big one is the German manufacturing PMI, which came out pretty strong at 45.4 versus 43.7. The Eurozone manufacturing PMI came in at 46.6 versus 44.8. Pretty positive. Bank of Canada is due to announce, sorry, my throat. Bank of Canada was due to announce its rate decision at 9:45, expected to hold at 5%, and it'll also report its monetary policy. And then also at 9:45, we get the S&P Global numbers, the composite manufacturing and PMI for the U.S. We do get the crude oil and gasoline inventories, the EIA inventories at 10:30. 4 p.m. we start getting South Korean numbers, business confidence, and GDP growth. That wraps up our day for the session. That wraps up our day for the session. The S&P. So looking at the markets, what we have here, full session. What we have here is the market gapping through the 4,900. This is really important. The overnight session has a multi-distribution profile. Really just, it closed at the high yesterday. Those of you who attended the Convergent Trading Trade Talk, we talked about 48.90 being key. And if we break the 48.90, then we're likely to go neutral. And yesterday we closed neutral extreme in the ES. We'll examine that in a minute and tell you why that matters. We have a multi-distribution profile, pretty active price discovery. Currently, it has pushed as high as 49.2450. The point of control, 49.14, a lot higher than in recent history. The volume is not so great given the size of the move here, 177,000 contracts. So we might get to maybe 183 or so by the time the market opens. And you can see down below here that the mode for volume, or the point of control for volume, is 260. So it's pretty light. Inventory 100% long. All trading occurred above the prior day's close. And the range is 24.25 points, telling us that there's a fair amount of discovery that has taken place. This is in contrast to yesterday's 14 and a half points. So better chances today. Yesterday, what we talked about here, this is from yesterday's Trader Bite. And, yesterday, the key idea was that we checked up higher at 48.91.75. We had very clear rejection the prior session of a push into the 4,900. We expect the century figure to be rejected on the first test. We got exactly that. And the expectation is we're likely to drift lower towards the 48.70. 48.70 being the key test area. Here's what actually happened. So the skew yesterday was to the downside. Here's what happened. Notice, like, between the day before, how wide this is, and this is a 4-tick Renko, versus yesterday, you can see how narrow the 2 days are. This is RTH. I'm comparing RTH sessions, and what this tells us is with a Renko, because it's not dependent on time, if this was a time-based chart, the width of both RTH sessions will be exactly the same. And the fact that they're not tells us how little or how grindy the movement is. I don't want to get a bar unless the market moves, right? So my preference is PNF or Renko bars in terms of the active charts. So yesterday, What did we do? We moved lower. We almost tested the prior day's low. We expected a break lower into 70. We couldn't get past 74, I believe, 74 and a quarter maybe, right here, 74 and a quarter. And then we started to see a failed auction at the low, and then it starts to break through our key references, the VWAP mid, pulls back to VWAP, skims VWAP, and then it goes neutral here. And then what we end up with overall is a neutral extreme close. We closed at an extreme after testing down. We tested up. This is very bullish. This is a very bullish type of day. We open, Netflix comes in. We push up into Netflix. Netflix brings buyers, and then from there, it's just taking off, especially after the PBOC announces its stimulus. And so we've been doing this kind of run all night. We have VWAP and the overnight point of control in alignment. Price separation between the two, telling us that the market is out of balance. The high in the overnight session, although it looks strong, is actually relatively weak when you look at the profile. And we have a bit of distance to VWAP and 100% long inventory. So what this sets up is the high probability of a turn lower and some basing in the 49, 14, 15. So 14, 15. Remember the 14, 15 from below? The 48 handle, now we're in the 49 handle dealing with the same prices. 14, 15, and if that holds, then we're looking for a long on it actually holding to push the high, 24.50. You expect that high to go, given that it's weak and the trend is generally higher. We're opening in a gap. And the delta is kind of sideways. If you look at the delta here, delta is kind of sideways. It is positive overall, but it's been going sideways. You can see the large lots falling off, very large lots picking up, but not much, and small lots sideways. So to me, this looks like it's likely to be an open auction out of range, an open auction out of range. And so I'm looking for those VWAP tests early on. VWAP not holding. Okay, well, we have a gap. This is a gap day, so we're going to be very, very sensitive or conscious of a gap and go situation. Gap rules apply here. We don't want to fade a gap until we see the actual failure. Falling below the 49.12 mid here starts us off on a gap close back towards the back towards yesterday's high, which was 49.02. 49.02. So that closes the gap, which is in line with the overnight low. If we're not able to get the overnight high, and that gets us the overnight stats. So that's what we're looking for. My main play here for today is pull back 14, 15, potentially 13. As the overnight and mid are in that area, and I'm expecting to see it fail to push, and I'm expecting it to squeeze higher. The market overall, the posture across the board is relatively bullish, and I'm not going to come in and fade that. Okay, so you can see the overnight session rotations mainly positive. The negative rotations had very little chance, So there's no point fading that kind of performance. The NASDAQ, same kind of thing. Distance between VWAP and current pricing. We are seeing large lots starting to kick in. The NASDAQ's quite a bit more bullish in delta. Point of control right here. The NASDAQ, really, there's not much to say that's different than the ES. They're really moving in tandem at the moment. The RTY is the one that's kind of, that's a bit of an outlier. The RTY, despite the overnight session, is still, the RTY ended up selling off and coming into balance with the prior session. You could see that it just traded right back into the prior session and is trading inside of yesterday's RTH. Just a very different animal. RTY might give more obvious setups today, given how it is postured. The RTY on selling is very likely to fall very quickly back towards 2000 this morning. So look at how the delta is performing here, just completely flat despite the rally, and in fact turning negative despite the rally. There's just not much aggression on the buy side in the RTY. So what we have here is price moving on thin air. Crude pushed above the into the 75 handle again. The last time it did that was a couple days ago, and it came right back off and closed in the 74 handle. The next day it pushed. The next session, overnight session, it tried to push higher, and it fell right off. Yesterday it opened, tested down, and immediately took off. Yesterday was very bullish for crude, but we're still ping-ponging between the 73 handle and the 75 handle, and we remain in place. So crude, again, still stuck in this range. If you look at crude's detail chart, profile detail chart, it's pushed away from the two key distributions here, but it's not really making a lot of progress, right? So once we get through the 76.40 or so, once we get through this point of control, which we tested before and held, once we get through it, now we're talking, 78, and then the equilibrium point for crude is $80. That's the target for producers. But until that happens, I'm seeing this crude as a product that is trapped, trading from the outside in. Impulses on crude, I'm watching for failure on impulses on crude, and retests that are weak are an opportunity to sell. As I always say, crude is a physically delivered product, very risky to trade. So if you're going to venture into crude, you'd want to trade the MCL, which is reasonably liquid and is financially settled and is 1/10 the size. Okay, dollar per tick type of movement. So that's where we stand across the board. There's not much more, and I'll let you guys go. Good luck, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Don't forget to take the poll. The poll asks, you just flipped a coin 50 times and got heads every time? You flipped 50 times, which the probability for that is 0.5 to the power of 50. That's a very, very, very small mathematical probability that would happen. But still, you flipped 50 times, you got heads every time. What is the outcome of the next flip? You've gotten heads 50 times. Are you going to get tails next because you flipped heads so many times on a fair coin? Or will you finally get tails on the next flip? Or is it completely unknown what the next outcome is based on the last 50, last 2,000, last 6,000? Can we know what the next coin toss is? This is exactly correlated to how we trade. This is why we manage risk first and foremost. The correct answer is, well, we'll see when the poll gets posted. Take care, and I'll catch you. Don't forget to follow on Twitter. You can find me at twitter.com/futurestrader71. Don't forget to hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so it can be found by more traders. Okay, good luck. I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Take care.